Hello, good morning. It is Friday the 10th of April and I decided to vlog this weekend. It's a long bank holiday weekend. I've been off from work this week. Anyway, I had holiday booked and even though I can't go anywhere, I thought I'd just take some time off work anyway to just chill and read, and it's been quite nice so far. So because it's a long bank holiday weekend, I'm not back to work until Tuesday, and I thought that I would vlog. I might not vlog the whole weekend, I'm going to vlog until I finish my owls, and I have 3 books left for the owls, so let me show you them. So here's my TBR cart. I have Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys and The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert and Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas left on my TBR. The Travelling Cat Chronicles were on my TBR, but if you've seen my first part of my monthly wrap up, you will know that I had to swap this because this was my Muggle Studies read, but it's actually told from the perspective of a cat, not a muggle, and so doesn't fit the prompt, but hopefully I'll still get to this fairly soon, so I've left it on my TBR cart. The collection of short stories I started before the owls, 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, I have read, how much have I read of this? I'm on page 109, I think it's about 300 pages, so once I've finished the owls I will finish that. Maybe I'll include that in this vlog. And I do also want to read Ruin and Rising by Lee Bardugo, but I probably won't do that in this vlog because once I finish this vlog I want to start a reading challenge, so that's the plan. Apologies for all the mess here. We're by my computer, which is where I'm doing my work from home thing, so I've got headphones and supplies and stuff here that I might need for meetings and stuff, but for this morning I'm going to start Wide Sargasso Sea, which is a Jane Eyre prequel, which is exciting. I love Jane Eyre, it's my favourite classic. This is a Penguin Hothbound Classics edition, and this is for potions because it's under 150 pages. In fact, I think it's only 100 pages, although it looks quite long. There's lots of notes and introductions and analyses and things in here, which I probably won't read. I will just read the actual story, and I'll check in with you once I've finished it, I guess. I'm not going to check in halfway through because it's just so short. I'll check in when I'm actually done. Oh, also these are the books I have finished so far, and I will link my first wrap up above for you. I've decided to also wash my makeup brushes as they are looking pretty grim. And I recently heard about a new trick that you can use a sieve to clean them, and it works really well, so I'm going to give that a go. Okay, sorry if it's really echoey, I'm in my bathroom now. That worked okay. It worked better on the eye brushes, as you can see there's no staining there, but it didn't work quite so well on the brushes I use for blush, which are still quite stained. So it's okay, but I'm still searching for a method that will remove blusher stains, but I guess maybe that doesn't exist. I don't know. So, as you can probably tell from the lighting, it is much later now. I have now finished Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys, but it actually took me quite a long time to read because it's quite a difficult book to get through. There's a lot of pretty dark themes. If you don't know what it's about, this is kind of potentially spoilers for Jane Eyre, so if you haven't read that, maybe skip ahead 20 seconds or so. But essentially this is the story of the mad wife in the attic of Mr. Rochester and where she came from and how she came to be mad and in Mr. Rochester's attic. And frankly, it's a very dark story, and the life of Antoinette, which is the name that Jean Rhys gives her. She's called Bertha in Jane Eyre, and in this story he decides to call her Bertha, even though that's not her name. So Antoinette has lived a very difficult life, but it's very difficult to sympathise with any of the characters in the story, because she's living in Jamaica after the Emancipation Act, so after Jamaican slavery has come to an end, but only just like the year after. And she comes from a slaving family, so her mother was a slave owner, and so it's difficult to relate to her when she is being bullied by the now free black children in her community, because it's like, well, I get why they're doing it, you know, like it's never right, you should never bully somebody, but if there's anybody who's got a reason to bully someone, it's someone who is oppressed for their whole life. So it's very difficult to sympathise with her, although she was a child, so it's not really her fault what happened. She never really played a part in that. And then Mr. Rochester's character is just awful, and everything that's happening to everybody is awful, and yet you still don't sympathise with anyone. So it's a very difficult book, and it's also written in a somewhat classical style. It's not, I think she's done a pretty good job of matching the tone of Jane Eyre. It's not quite right because it's set in Jamaica rather than the Yorkshire Moors, which is where Jane Eyre is set. So, you know, that sense of desolation isn't quite the same, but otherwise the tone matches pretty well. But that does lead to a slightly heavier read. So even though it's a fairly short book, it still took me the whole day to get through it, because I couldn't just sit and read it in one sitting. I really needed to break it up and give myself breaks from it, because it was hard in more ways than one. But I am glad that I read it. I do think that it's a worthwhile read if you like Jane Eyre and that kind of thing. I don't think there'd be much point in reading it if you haven't read Jane Eyre, because it really, what it does is it challenges the preconceptions that you reach about Bertha or Antoinette whilst reading Jane Eyre, and the preconceived notions that you have about Mr. Rochester from Jane Eyre. This book really challenges those. So if you haven't read Jane Eyre, I don't think you'd get much from it. But it was an interesting read. I am glad I read it. I think it's one of those books that I possibly need to ruminate on for quite a while and will go round in my head for a little while. But for now, I am going to move on to Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, and I'm going to download the audiobook and read and listen, because that's something I've been really enjoying for the past couple of weeks. Really, I find it very immersive, and it just makes it easier for me to focus on reading. And I have Audible, and I have Scribed, and I have access to my own library and the library of a friend of mine in America. So between those 4 platforms, I'm pretty much able to get hold of any book for which an audiobook exists. There isn't one for Wide Sargasso Sea, interestingly enough, but there is one for this, only on Audible though, because it's an Audible exclusive, which I didn't know. Don't know why that is the case, but anyway, I'm going to download that and use my credit for that one. Hello! I actually haven't started my vlog yet today. It's already 1:45. I've been up for quite some time. I haven't actually done any reading today yet because there's an impromptu 24-hour readathon happening today as part of the Owls, and I'm participating, and I didn't sleep very well last night, so I decided to just watch a film this morning. Shocking, I know. And now I'm sitting down getting ready to read. I got to chapter 6 of Crown of Midnight yesterday evening, so not particularly far in, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's really too early to tell, but my plan is to finish this today. I've got about 5.5-ish hours of the audiobook to get through, so I should finish this today, no problem, and then I can start the Hazelwood and possibly finish that before the 24 hours is up. That might be optimistic at this point, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll be able to start the Hazelwood tonight. Okay, so I actually just filmed this clip, but it turns out it wasn't actually recording, so that's helpful, and unfortunately it means I also missed some cute Haruki footage, so sorry about that. As you can probably tell, again, it is now very, very late again, and I haven't checked in throughout the day. Unfortunately, I haven't been feeling too well today. I've just really sat on the sofa and read my book and not moved and not really felt up for much else. Around the middle of the day I did go out to the pharmacy, used my government approved walk in the sunshine to pop to the pharmacy to get some meds. My feeling unwell is not COVID related, by the way. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better now, but I feel like I've got a headache coming on as well, and I'm feeling quite tired. So I'm going to be going to bed after this. But I have finished Crown of Midnight, which I don't think I explained what this is earlier. This is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series, although to be honest you probably already know this. Book 1 follows Selena, who is an assassin, and she is in prison. She's in a sort of prison manual labour camp at the beginning of the first book, and she is released to allow her to compete in a competition to become the king's champion, so that he has his own sort of personal assassin to do his bidding. And I won't tell you what this one is about because it's a sequel. I found the sort of opening 50 pages or so really fast-paced and interesting, and it felt like there was lots going on, and then it slowed down a little bit and there was still stuff going on, but for the first half of this book I was really finding myself thinking, I don't understand how this is going to be a 7-book series. I just don't feel like there's enough material here to continue on for 7 books with. Like, I could feasibly see it becoming a trilogy because I don't think it could really work as a duology. You know, just duologies have that certain feeling, don't they? Whereas this just doesn't have that. It's definitely, it feels, or at least the first half of it felt very middle book of a trilogy, and I was a bit baffled because I know that there are 7 books. And then the second half, there were just so many reveals of various things, and now I get it. Now I'm like, yeah, okay. Now I can see how this is going to be a 7-book series. The next book is very clearly going to open up the world massively, and this is already, I mean, book 1 was too, and this book were both multiple perspective stories, but I suspect that we'll spend even more time in the heads of other characters as the series moves forward, because even though this one's multiple perspective, it's still predominantly Selena's character that we read from. She's still very much the protagonist, and I think that that will continue. But, I mean, this book is just over 400 pages, and according to Goodreads, Air of Fire is nearly 600, so there'll be a bit more space for us to spend more time in the heads of the various characters, and I do see that happening now as the series goes on. I expect that the cast of characters is going to grow quite significantly, and I think that the plot lines are going to expand quite significantly given what happened in the second half of this book. I'm being very cryptic, I realise, but I don't want to give any spoilers, although I suspect I know I'm very late to this particular party, and a lot of you have probably already read this series, but I have not, so please don't spoil me in the comments. And I definitely do want to continue with the series. It's not necessarily super high on my priority list, although I have now finished Mistborn Era 2. I finished that last month, so this could potentially move up on the list. But that's my penultimate book for the Owls. So tomorrow, because I am going to go to bed now, tomorrow I'm going to pick up The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, and that will be my final book. Now, I don't think I'm going to finish it within the 24 hours of this impromptu 24-hour readathon within the Owls readathon, because the audiobook is 6 hours, which means that I would have to get up at 8 and read it solidly without any breaks, which is not going to happen. I will get up when I get up, and I will read fairly solidly, but I want to have breakfast and like have a cup of tea and watch some YouTube and that kind of thing. So I won't be finishing within the 24 hours, but that's fine because I'll still get the majority of the way through it, and I will still finish it tomorrow, The Hazelwood I mean, and I will still finish it within this vlog. So for now, I'm going to go to bed, and I will see you in the morning when hopefully I'll be feeling better. I do feel a headache coming on, which I'm really, really hoping. I'm going to take some painkillers and go to bed, and hopefully a good night's sleep will stave it off. I really hope I don't have another headache tomorrow. I had one last Sunday, and if I have another one this Sunday, I'll be really, really annoyed because, well, it's just annoying to have a headache. Yeah, that's it. See you tomorrow. Good morning, guys. I had another pretty bad night's sleep. Woke up at 6 AM and couldn't get back to sleep, so I kind of just laid in bed trying to sleep again until 8, and when that didn't work, I got up and had breakfast and then had a bit of a nap on the sofa, and I feel maybe a little bit better after all of that. And I just, as you can probably tell, rinsed my hair just to try and get rid of some of the tension in my head, and it's now 11 AM. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another cup of tea, and when I got up I put these eye masks in the fridge, so they should be cold by now, so I think I'm going to do those eye masks, have a cup of tea and read for a little while. So today I'm going to be reading The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is for History of Magic for the Owls, which requires you to read a book with witches or wizards in it, and I'm very much hoping that this does have witches and wizards in it. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know for sure, but it was on the spreadsheet saying that there were witches and wizards in it, so I'm hoping that there will be. All I really know about this is that the character Alice, her grandmother has died, and her grandmother was a famous author. She wrote fairy tales, but she didn't really know her grandmother very well, and when her grandma passes away, she goes to her house and discovers that the fairy tales weren't fiction. I think. I don't know, but I'm going to be reading it today and finishing it today, so once I've done that I will be able to tell you properly what it's about. It's only 355 pages, and like I said before, I've got the audiobook, so I'll be reading and listening to that. But first, tea. Hello. My hair is making me look a little bit like Doc Brown today, but we're just going to ignore that. I'm probably about a third of the way through the Hazelwood, page 138. Nearly halfway, I suppose. And I'm liking it so far. It's urban fantasy, but we haven't really got into any of the magical elements yet. It's just sort of a little bit creepy, a little bit weird. It feels like the Spiderwick Chronicles. I've never read the book, but I've seen the film, and it's got that kind of feeling to it. So dark, modern, fairy tale, something going on in the background, but you can't really see what it is yet. We've not gone to the Hazelwood yet, we're still in New York, and I don't know what I really want to tell you about it because I feel like I don't want to spoil it, so I'll probably wait until I've finished the book before I summarise it for you, because I'll have a better grasp of what's spoilery and not by the time I get to the end, you know. But I am enjoying it so far. We've reached the end of the 24 hours now, so I'm just taking a bit of a reading break to make some lunch, possibly watch some YouTube, that kind of thing. Once I've had lunch, I'll read a bit more, and then my sister and I are going to do some yoga together digitally because we don't live together and we're in lockdown, so we're not going anywhere. Good morning. Please ignore my hair. It's a lot. We're just gonna pretend it's fine. I finished The Hazelwood last night and I really, really liked it. So, what is it about? What can I tell you? So, basically what I said before I started it is right. We follow a character named Alice who lives with her mum, and they travel a lot. They travel around a lot because they're plagued by bad luck. Everywhere they go, stuff goes wrong and they have to move on. And Alice has this grandmother who wrote a very famous fairy tale book called Tales of the Hinterland, which, although is very famous, had a very limited print run and is really difficult to get hold of, and therefore the copies of it are really, really expensive. And Alice has always wanted to know her grandmother, but her mum doesn't want her to, and we don't know why. And then the grandmother dies, and I'm trying to be vague because actually the main sort of plot point of the story is a mystery. So I don't think I'm going to say any more than that because I really don't want to ruin the mystery elements of this story. I don't usually like mystery in my fantasy, but I actually really enjoyed this one. I think it was just the right balance between mystery and fantastical elements and fast-paced plot. We were always moving forward towards the answer to the mystery throughout the book, which I liked. Sometimes mystery books, or at least the very few that I've read, they can get very bogged down in the investigation portion of the mystery story, and this one focused a lot more on reveals, so there were pretty consistent reveals the whole way through. So I liked it. Very good. There's a sequel, which I don't really understand how there's a sequel, because I felt like the ending was pretty conclusive, so I'm going to have to look into that. But as of right now, I don't think I'm going to read the sequel because I was really happy with this story as it stands on its own, so I'll look into what the sequel is about. In fact, let me do that now. Okay, so it's basically another mystery story based in the same version of our world, because it's urban fantasy, this book, so I might pick it up, but I'm not going to rush to it. So that's going to be it for this vlog. I was planning on editing and posting a video yesterday, but then I ran into some technical difficulties, so that did not happen. Hopefully I'll be able to do that today instead. But during this vlog I read the entirety of Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys, Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas, and The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, so I'm very happy with all of that, and I'm going to sign off this vlog here, I think. I hope you enjoyed it and it wasn't too boring for you, but that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.